This week, learn about formatted strings or Fstrings, a feature that's been around since Python 3.6 and makes complicated string creation much easier and cleaner to read. Welcome to another MetPy Monday. Hello, I'm John Lehman, a software engineer for Unidata. On this week's MetPy Monday, I want to talk about a feature that's been around for a little while, at least since Python 3.6, of formatted strings or Fstrings. These are somewhat underappreciated, though I try to use them in the videos that we go through together every week, but I want to specifically focus on them and point out some of their advantages. So unlike many MetPy Mondays, we're going to start out not by importing matplotlib, but actually from datetime, I'm going to import the datetime object. The goal of this is going to be to create a string that says something like the current weather at date and time is so many degrees temperature and so much % relative humidity. So we're just going to create a datetime using UTC now, a temperature, and a humidity. So the older way that you might have seen done or might still do is the % formatting style. So I want to print my string, say current weather at %s for a string, %d for an integer, degree Celsius, %d for an integer, relative humidity. Now we're going to use a % outside the string, and then in parentheses, put our variables. So now, temperature, and humidity. So that works, but it needs a little bit of help. I probably don't want my weather time stamped out to the microsecond. That's probably not very useful. And maybe we want to have a certain number of digits if these were decimals, or zero pad if it was a wind direction, and we can do all of that, but this starts getting clunky pretty quick. So the first thing for fixing our time, I'm going to create a current time string, and using datetime's strf time, string format time, I'm going to format the now instance as year, month, day, and then hours and the word hours. Then we're going to change this to be current time string. So that's working, and that gives us the result that we would desire here. So the year, month, day at 20 hours, and there's our values. But I probably want a % after 15 here. We need to use a double %. The first one escapes the second, so it doesn't think we're trying to add another variable to this string. And there we go, but that doesn't read very well, and it certainly doesn't expand well. This is where if I wanted to add a pressure, so I went back here and added another %d or %f for a float. Now I need to figure out which position in this tuple here it needs to occupy. So it doesn't read that well, and as you try to expand, it can be a little bit crazy making. Well, now there are formatted strings using the .format method. These have also been around for a while. So I'm going to copy and paste this, and let's change it to using the .format method. All I'm going to do is after my closing quote there, I'm going to call .format, leave everything the same, except I'm going to replace the % syntax with empty curly braces. Notice I can get rid of that extra % now because I'm not using % as my put a variable here marker. And now that works. This starts reading a little bit better, but it still is subject to that positional issue. So if I added another set of curly braces here, I would have to know that it goes in this position. So we haven't solved that, but I certainly like the look of this better. It looks more Pythonic. It looks a little less cryptic. And it's more object-oriented with using a format method on a string here. Okay, so let's copy and paste that and see how we can make it even a little bit better. To get rid of that positional dependence, we can create variables that are very, very local to the scope of this call. So I'm going to say time, temp, and hum for humidity. And then I'm going to assign those in my .format as named keyword arguments. Okay, so we've got time, temp, and hum. So that looks the exact same, and you might say, well, what's exciting about that? What's exciting about it is I can now make these completely out of order, and it doesn't matter because they are named. So I could put humidity in the center and put a comma, and now we still have everything in the right position because it's looking things up by name. Again, though, if you have a very, very long complex string, this can still get a little cumbersome. Also, I don't like doing this on a separate line, really. I want to do it in place. So now let's try doing this with an F string or a format string. I'm going to copy and paste again. Now, inside the brackets, I'm going to replace it with the name of what I want in there. So in this case, current time string. Replace temp with temperature, and replace hum with humidity. So now I'm going to get rid of all my .format here. And you say, well, it didn't work. Well, we haven't told it that this is an F string. It's interpreting everything as a literal until we add the F here in front. So now we're back to our same result. But we can do one better. So now I'm going to copy and paste this. And I'm going to grab my date formatting out of here and delete that line completely. I'm going to replace current time string with now, which is the date time instance, a colon saying now I'm going to tell you what format I want this displayed in, and my time format string. And it just works. It interprets that time format string correctly and prints that variable out for us. Likewise, if I wanted temperature to always be displayed out to the 10th of a degree as a float, I could say 0.1 F, for I want one digit after the decimal displayed as a floating point. And now we have that. Finally, I can also zero pad things. This is more useful for wind direction, but I will illustrate it here on humidity. So again, colon, I'm telling it I'm going to tell you how to format this now. 03.0 F. Now when I print it, it's displayed as a floating point number with 0 digits after the decimal, 3 digits before, and 0 padded, hence 015. Now, a cool thing here is if I go back and make this 15.5 and we rerun these cells, notice it now displays it as 16. So it's actually taking care of rounding that, not just strictly truncating it for me. So I hope that you find F-strings useful, and as a bonus, if this doesn't convince you to use them, I encourage you to go back and instead of print, just put s equals, assign them to some local variable, and do a %% time it on each of these cells. You'll be pleasantly surprised to find that F-strings evaluate faster than either the .format method or using % formatting. So not only does it make your code more readable, more Pythonic, it's also a performance boost for your code. I hope that you found this useful, and I'll see you on next week's MetPy Monday.